I call Gareth Hughes.
Kia ora, ngā mihi nui kia koutou kia ora. Mr Speaker, tonight around the country there are couples sitting around their dinner tables in their rented kitchens, going over their household budgets, wondering how they're ever going to own their own home. Mr Speaker, they're probably not reading the Social Development and Housing Report. They're probably more likely watching reruns of The Block or Mitre 10 Dream Home. Kiwis, we sure do love our home renovation TV genre, but the fact is for too many Kiwis, this isn't reality TV, this is fantasy TV. These are people who work hard, want to raise a family and a home of their own, but they're working, they're saving, but they're finding the deck is stacked against them. These people also have a name. These people are called now Generation Rent. This is a generation stuck in poor quality rental accommodation with out-of-date tenancy law. It's not an accident. It's not a force of nature. Mr Speaker, this is the result of deliberate policies. Deliberate policies skewing to screw the scrum. Deliberate policies that benefit and profit property investors over new home buyers. These are policies that discriminate against Generation Rent and present clear economic and social risks to New Zealand. It's no way to run a country to reward property speculators over people investing in productive enterprises and employing new workers. It's clear that something's out of kilter when a house can earn more in a matter of months than someone can working over 1 or 2 years. Now, Simon Bridges last week said the country doesn't have a housing crisis. But Mr Bridges, say that to someone working on a minimum wage, paying the 12% before tax compulsory student loan repayments, trying to save 20% for an LVR deposit, someone who's told they've got to start saving for their environment too. Mr Bridges says there's no housing crisis, but say that to someone in Auckland, where house prices have risen by $100,000 since January this year. Try saying that to someone in Otara, where 80% of people buying houses there are in fact estimated to be investors. Try saying that to someone stuck in a cold, damp rental house, when the official estimates say we see 1,600 extra deaths and 40,000 child hospital admissions because of our poor quality housing. Try saying that to the couple who don't go to Bali twice a year, don't drive a BMW on lease, don't have a 42-inch plasma screen, and don't spend $200 at the bar on a Friday night, but that same couple are told in the media that it's their fault that they're not disciplined enough to buy a house. Mr Speaker, there are thousands of New Zealanders locked out of home ownership, Kiwis and families living in the holiday parks, living in the garages, thousands of Kiwis literally sleeping on our streets, and anyone who says that's not a crisis has their head in their sand and they're completely out of touch. In this country, we used to be called the half-gallon acre, quarter-acre Pavlova paradise. But Mr Speaker, since those days, our home ownership rates have now dropped to where they were in the early 50s. Home ownership used to be called the New Zealand dream, but today it's just that, a dream. For my generation, we're called millennials or Gen Y or Gen Rent. Housing unaffordability is in fact one of the highest profile symbols of the wider generational inequities we see. Mr Speaker, my generation and the broader generation, in fact, could be the first generation which is worse off than their parents' generation. This is a generation that's burdened with $15 billion of student debt, gifted from a generation who had free education, a generation working in an imbalanced, indebted economy whose glory days are in fact 50 years in the past, a generation facing and inheriting unswimmable rivers, species going extinct, and the very real possibility of runaway catastrophic climate change. Mr Speaker, for my parents' generation, there was state support to get into a house, free education and a job as good as guaranteed for life. Today, a good job, an affordable education and a house to call your own are considered luxuries. These are some pretty big issues facing the country, but what's the government focused on? Well, it's flags and it's foreign trusts. A great president once said, a house divided against itself cannot stand. And what we have seen in New Zealand since 2016 is generations divided by housing. Mr. Speaker, I believe in fair and affordable housing as a basic human right for all New Zealanders. And if you work hard and you save, you should be able to get into a house for yourself, even in a bigger city. Mr. Speaker, the solutions are not rocket science. One, we need the government to build a lot of new homes like we used to. Secondly, we need a comprehensive capital gains tax excluding the family home to remove the unfair tax incentive to invest in property. Three, we need restrictions on foreign property as we see in other countries. The solutions are doable, achievable, let's get on and build it.
Sue Moroney.